Today we have an example of a car that at least 8 of my friends drove, and they were everywhere. I mean, you could literally find them everywhere, and they're getting harder to find in good condition now. If you live in the States, they're still kind of everywhere because they're Chevy trucks and they sold 1 billion of them. But most of them have been ragged out by teenagers, including this one. Now this car belongs to a friend of mine. It's a 2-door Tahoe, just like the one his wife drove in high school. And it's actually in really good shape for a Tahoe. And I had several people tell me that. And they tagged that line onto the end. It's in a really good shape for an old Tahoe. And so we want to take it from really good shape for a Tahoe into really good shape, period. There's only a few things that need to be done. The paint on the outside is pretty good. They had it resprayed a few years ago and it looks okay, so we're not gonna mess with that. But there's a few other things that every 90s car suffers from that we're going to handle. The first thing is also the biggest problem, and that is in the 90s they moved from metal dashes and leather covered dashes to plastic and some foam composites and other things like that. There's a lot of reasons for this. One of it's just the way it feels, the way it looks. Also, the implementation of airbags meant that you couldn't put a steel dash in front of a person because the airbag had to come out. And so they moved to different kinds of plastics and they did a lot of experimenting. Just like in the paint world, they experimented in the plastics world in the 90s. And a lot of the experiments didn't go so well, especially in the case of the 90s Tahoes. This plastic is basically made of paper. And if it sits out in the sun for a really long time, it cracks and breaks. So we're gonna replace that. I didn't want to do the cheap kind of stereotypical dash cover. There was already one in there and it was not holding on very well. And so I wanted to go ahead and replace this thing, make it new, and have one of the few Tahoes in the world with a dash that was not cracked. Now, I called around to a bunch of different junkyards and asked for a dash that wasn't cracked, and they all laughed at me. I found one on eBay that wasn't cracked, but given this state of my dash, I was worried that this one was going to be brittle. So even though it hadn't cracked, I was worried that the plastic was going to be brittle. So I wanted to find something that had plastic that still had some malleability so that it wouldn't crack as soon as I put this thing in.
All right, get this on camera.
Wait, okay, yeah. Hang on, we got one more. No, you're good.
All right, YouTube, did y'all see that?
All right, you can just take it and put it over there if you want.
On this thing?
Yeah, on the trailer. Easy, you don't want to break it.
Also, all the screws are in here.
Oh, good. The dash that's in this Tahoe is the worst that I've ever seen. It is completely disintegrating underneath this dash cover, and there's no saving this thing at all. There's no fixing it. It's done. We've got to find another one. So I found a guy that's a little bit north of me that specializes in OBS, old body style Chevys, which is what this Tahoe is. And so I went over there, I picked up a few pieces of just interior trim pieces that I couldn't find on the internet, and I found a dash. It's not perfect, but it's a lot better, and most importantly, the plastic is in really good shape. The car was likely kept inside for a long time, and so we don't have the brittle nature that we got from the first dash. But it's not perfect. Firstly, it's the wrong color. Secondly, there are some cracks that we're gonna have to address. So I tried super gluing the dash first to see if it works. It didn't work. I'll tell you how I fixed it in a minute. But also we had to paint this thing. Now these dashes were painted from the factory, so if you are working on a Tahoe and you've got one of the rare like red dashes or blue dashes, just get a tan or gray dash and paint it. They're painted from the factory, you can do it. That's the way to do it. And what we're gonna do today to get this from tan to gray. So I got some spray paint. Now if you are spray painting your dash, use flat paint. I did not use flat paint here because I couldn't get the right color gray in flat. I had to use a satin, and the satin's okay. Don't use gloss, it looks awful. Satin will work okay if you can't find the right color in flat, but flat is the best for your dashboard. You do not want it to be shiny at all, so get flat. Again, we're using satin, but you should get flat. Getting this thing back in is not the easiest task in the world, but it's a lot easier if you've already taken a couple out. The first one of these I took out took me 2 hours, the time that you guys watched with my wife. The one that I did at the parts place took me 45 minutes. And so once you figure out where all the screws are and all the wiring and all the everything else goes, then it's really not that bad. And the reason these dashes are so hard is because you have to remove the wiring harness, you have to remove the radio, the trim, you have to unplug it from like the ECU. There's like 8 plugs under the engine bay that you have to fish back through the firewall. It's just a nightmare and it's really nerve-wracking. But they did make it easy to replace and they're interchangeable, and so it's not too bad, but it is a daunting task to look at. I'm gonna link a video below of the one, it's the one that I followed to get these out. If you're working on a Tahoe, this is the best video for taking these dashes out. It goes through every single bolt, every single nut, and every single plug that you have to remove in order to do it. Very, very simple, very easy. Follow the instructions and you can get this thing swapped out on your own. Now, with the new dashing, we've got a few things we've got to do. We've got to repair the crack that split right open as soon as I put the dash in, and then also we've got to swap the radio out. Now, the radio is easy enough. My buddy wanted the factory radio, so I found one on eBay, plugged it in, no big deal, very, very simple. As far as the crack, there's a few things we've got to do to make it work. I made a pretty serious judgment call here. This thing popped as soon as I installed the dash, and there's pressure moving this way, so it's always going to crack. I'm not going to just be able to glue it, so we're going to have to do an actual plastic repair. Done these on the channel before, but basically we're going to be cutting a groove. You can see I've already started it here. We're going to cut a groove, and then we've got some plastic weld, which is chemical weld, that we'll use to weld this back together. And we won't do a ton of finishing on it because I don't want to lose texture. I'd rather have a line like this than a smooth like square. So we'll just make it as clean as possible just from the repair side and then paint over it and be done. You can see it's just a real clean sweeping motion there. And the more you you saw me going over that several times, the more you go over it kind of lightly, the smoother that transition gets. So the first time it was real wobbly from me pushing down in the material. And then as you create a groove, the transition gets smoother. And you also notice the gap is much smaller now, which is cool. So that's good. So maybe there was some warping from the plastic being cracked for so long that was causing it to kind of push itself apart. But now it's much closer to being together in its relaxed position. We've got a little bit of a pull that needs to happen here, but definitely not bad. Let this set up for a little bit, until 5 minutes, and then we'll kind of mix some more, and we're just gonna keep filling until this is level. All right, I let this sit overnight. Came in here with some 400 grit and sanded, and this is what we're left with. It looks pretty good. Right here you can see it's flat because you can see the sandpaper touches on both sides. There's a little bit of a bump here. Look at that. Man, that's pretty frustrating. What you think? You like it? Good. All right, so here's what we ended up with. A lot more extreme of a repair than I intended, but it is what it is. So we've got this repair, which is the epoxy. You can see I've sanded it down with 400 grit. It's pretty smooth. There's a little bit of a rise, but I don't think I'm gonna worry about it because I want the material there. So I think it's gonna look okay. You'll have a little bit of a line, but I don't think it's gonna matter that much. Then we came down here because this was still trying to pull away, and I created this little angle bracket, 2 holes there. This is called a screw and post. So if you look down underneath here, see it looks kind of like a rivet. It's a threaded rivet, and it's good for clamping 2 unlike materials together. You can use these to fix visors a lot of times. Like if your visor falls down, you can run one of these next to the little post that goes in and clamp it, and it'll just help it to hold on. But that's it, and now that's the strongest piece of this entire dashboard. So it's not gonna crack again. I may sand this down because I can now that I have this strength in here. What caused this is, you see these little indentions? That is where the gauge fascia thing pushes in and clicks. We could probably mimic this and have it continue to click in right here. I don't think I'm going to though, because I think I want the strength. So I may have to modify that gauge bezel just to make it fit down on top of all of this new material, but I don't think it's gonna be that big of a deal. Your face is messy.
So next up is going to be paint, and we'll paint on this, and hopefully it'll be almost invisible. All right, there you go. You can see it now. Pretty much invisible. I really don't want to pull any more material out of there though, so I think that's going to be it.
As I was putting the dash in, we found another problem. This car has had a battery drain since I started working on it, and it's just kind of a mysterious thing. I could not figure out where this drain was coming from. As I was pulling the dash out, I found bundles of just extra wire, wired all into everything, and it was from some sort of audio system. This car was at one point an audio truck. There's like drivers in the door panels, and there was a big subwoofer wiring box in the back and all kinds of stuff that had just been haphazardly ripped out. And with that, there was some shorting or something happening. There was drainage coming from these bundles of wire. So I yanked those out, and now everything's factory again, which is really cool. A lot of those wires got replaced with the new dash, but we got the rest of it out of there. It's much cleaner, and now we don't have a battery drain. So we've got a new dash in our 90s car, but there's another thing that all 90s cars suffer from, and that is peeling and cracking steering wheels. It's not just 90s cars that suffer from this, but in the 90s, they went from kind of standard leather-covered steering wheels to these like composite, I don't know, foam rubber stuff, and it deteriorates like everything else in a 90s car. And you can find most 90s steering wheels on eBay still. So what I did is I found a factory steering wheel that had not been in such rough shape. We pulled the other steering wheel off. Now, sometimes you can pull these and they will just pop off. This one did not, so I had to use a steering wheel puller. You can rent these from your local auto parts store, and got the steering wheel off to put the new one on. This is a very simple thing. You just pull the airbag out, put the new one on, airbag back in, and you're good to go. And this makes such a huge difference. I mean, every time you get in a car, you're touching the steering wheel and looking at the dash. And now, every time you touch this steering wheel, it's new, it's fresh, it looks really, really good. The dash is factory. There's no cuts, there's no cracks, there's no kind of hodgepodge double din unit in the side. It's all like it should be, and it feels so much nicer. But there's another thing that you touch every time you get into the car, and it's not the seats. Now, we would do the seats. Naturally, this would be like number 3 on the list, but the seats have already been done in this car, so we can check that one off. The next thing is the handles. We touch the handles every time we get in and out of the car, and in the 90s, like everything else, they used plastic, and so a lot of it warps, a lot of it bends. A lot of the connections on the back, which a lot of times are also plastic, can crack or break. It leads to handles not opening and then being unreliable, doors being hard to shut. And as you're touching them, these were like really rough and cracked on the inside. And it just doesn't feel good. It just doesn't feel good. So the function's bad, the feel is bad, and I want to fix it. So I ordered all new handles inside and out for this car and installed those. Again, there's videos like everywhere for how to do this on this specific car. But ultimately, it's going to be different on every car, but most 90s cars use similar kind of setups where the handle goes in from the outside. There's 2 kind of bolts somewhere inside the door panel. There's always going to be some sort of access hole to get to those. And then the handles on the inside normally slide or click in with a screw or a nut, and in this case, it's actually a rivet that holds the interior door handle on. With that, I went ahead and ordered new interior trim as well, and went all the way around with new trim of all the plastics just to replace everything to start fresh with no oxidized or dry rotted cracking plastic on the interior of the car. Now, maybe this makes me sound like an old guy, but I genuinely enjoyed putting all of this stuff in. It changed the entire way the car felt. The car looked really nice on the outside. It looked really nice on the inside with the fancy headliner and the nice leather seats. But it just, every time you got in the car, all you could see were the cracks in the dash, the peeling dashboard cover, the haphazardly installed stereo, the peeling steering wheel, and the broken handles that you had to touch every time you got in. And with all of this stuff replaced, this car genuinely is the nicest Tahoe I've ever sat in my entire life. It really is.
All right, here we go. Time to test everything. So when you do the dash in one of these, I replaced the wiring for all of this. We replaced, obviously, the radio. That is from the old truck, so that should be fine. The gauges are from the other dash, but it's all new wiring. All the wiring for that is new. Everything is new. Wiring for the ignition is new. Well, that's a good sign. So we should be able to cut it on. Okay, we've got gauges. That's good. Our radio is working. Is this working? Yep. What about this one? Yep. Okay. And we should be able to just... One second. Put some jumpers on it. Let's see. to the forums. Got it. This is it. This should fix our problem. This is a security box they started using on the 98 dashes, and mine's a 98. So that's what's causing this, some sort of security system to keep it from running. So if we put this one in there, then it should fix the problem. Wish me luck. Alright, that's in. Let's see if she runs. Oh! That is great news. Thank you, forum guy, whoever answered my question on the forum. That's perfect. That's awesome. Thank goodness. I was so nervous. Okay, come over here.
I don't want to help fix the engine. Oh. I hope with those called. That part.
Let's see.
Is that the problem with this one too?
Not yet. I think we gotta...
Oh, it's right now attached.
There we go.
That's the problem with the other one on this side too. See,
It is?
look.
Oh yeah. Well, we gotta unplug it anyway.
And it's because it's unscrewed. You can see that it's
One.
unscrewed.
Let me see. Oh yeah, I can see that. Let's take this. That.
Is this one? Nope. The two at the top are fine.
Okay.
And that's
Let's
how
see.
the white bulb that
I think this is gonna come off now.
Yeah.
I think so too. Got some clips.
Damaged.
Maybe. Hope not. You know?
It's in my body. It's on my body.
Careful.
I put my whole face in it. I was gonna see my face in one hole. You're gonna be like, who is that? Is that the little kid? I got the Coke out of the car for what to drink when we get like sweaty.
Hey, you can drink it.
Are you gonna drink it when you get ready?
Yeah, I'll drink it in a little bit.
It's like,
Are you feeling a little tired already?
no.
Okay.
We still got a little.
Looks kind of naked, doesn't it?
What do you mean naked?
All right, so let's see.
Don't knock the cup over.
Got it. We need this box over here.
I can get a box.
Might be a little heavy. Can't remember.
Wait, let me feel.
Okay. Got it?
Oh, I got it.
Okay, walk it over there. Be very careful. Very, very careful.
Right here is
Yeah.
good.
Right there is good.
It's hard to put the box down when it's super big.
Yeah. All right, look. Get what all we got here.
Oh,
cool.
the light.
Yeah. Let's.
You know why I'm popping the bubble wrap?
Why are you popping the bubble wrap?
Because I love bubble wrap.
You do love bubble wrap?
Yeah.
That's funny.
It's not.
Okay. Turn it. You turn that one. I'm gonna get another one.
All right, and with that, we have made this 90s car what it was in the beginning. It may be a little bit nicer than it left the factory. I'm not sure if it left the factory with leather seats or not, but this thing is awesome. It feels so good. It runs great. We did have to replace a distributor to get it to run properly, but it runs awesome. The headlights work great. Everything looks clean inside and out. There's no cracks in the dash. All of it is clean and nice. We replaced the dashboard, we replaced the bezel, we replaced the CD player, we replaced the gauges, we replaced the switches, we replaced the wiring, we replaced the handles, we replaced the floor mats, we replaced the trim on the inside of the car, we replaced the tire, the spare tire in the back, the spare tire cover, we replaced the headlights, and we replaced the battery, and we cleaned up all the wiring and made it all look nice, and this car feels awesome. Oh, and we replaced the steering wheel. Everything about this car is great. I mean, really, really great. And it's encouraged me to do the interior on my 911. Now, you guys will know that I bought a 911 a couple of years ago, got it out of a barn. The interior still looks like I got it out of a barn. I have just been driving it, like daily driving this thing every single day for 2 years. I've put like 40,000 miles on it or something, 30 or 40,000 miles on it. And it is a great car. It has been super reliable. I should not have said that out loud, but it has been, and I've really, really enjoyed driving it, but I have not touched the interior, and you can tell. And it is really, really rough. And so after doing this Tahoe, and just realizing how much joy I got out of sitting in the nice interior that I had fixed up, we're gonna do the 911. It needs it. We're gonna do seat covers and steering wheel and all the things we did on this car to make that car feel as good as this one does when you sit in it. Now, I hadn't really planned on releasing this video at this point, but you might notice I'm still not in my shop. Had some problems with getting the power run to it. I think they're all sorted now. It's just been a hard year. I mean, it's been a good year, but it's been difficult, and this is just one of those things that has been difficult to do and to get done. I am working on it. Hopefully we'll have power this week, but no promises anymore. No more promises. We'll be in there when we're in there, and I'll keep putting videos out. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I really enjoyed like just restoring an old car a little bit. It felt really good, and it was so cool to see this thing get brought back to life. I'll see you guys in the next one.